Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Betterhumanology podcast. My name is Jared Moon, and with me is Talon Schwam. What's up, Talon?
What's up, Jared?
Not much. Just doing the podcast with you. Exciting times. How about you break it down this week and tell everybody what exactly the Betterhumanology podcast is?
Oh, you're just going to put it on me like that?
Just throw it past the buck.
All right. So the Betterhumanology podcast is here to make you better. We have interviews, we have experiments, sometimes we hash it out just to talk about some important topics, about things that can make you better. But all in all, we're just here to bring you as much information as we can that's hopefully going to make you and us better humans.
Boom. Nailed it. All right, and today we have one of those hash it out research episodes. And we're talking all about visualization and how it can make you a better human. And we're going to cover it in a couple of different areas. We're going to talk about what visualization actually is, how it can be used in a micro sense from lifting a barbell to macro sense of achieving something, really big in your life. And then we're also going to talk about the how to do visualization based off of some of our experiences and research that we've done. So I'm excited to get into this one, man. How about you?
Absolutely. I love visualizations. Let's hop right in.
Are you a big visualizer?
I am. I kind of always have been. I think I did it without really even knowing as a kid what I was doing. I was just I always had like that big imagination. So I kind of combined my imagination with my real life and kind of just imagined myself doing big things. And that's what it led to. So.
And that's what I think is really interesting about all this stuff when it comes to like mental training. Like a lot of this stuff can be taught or you can be coached on it. But when I interviewed AJ Roberts and he was talking about breaking the world record for becoming the world's strongest man, they actually did a study on him and found out that he did a lot of like mental strategies, visualization, positive self-talk, all this stuff. He did it naturally. It was just he had never been taught to do it. He didn't train to do it. He just did all of those things naturally. So a lot of people might hear us talking about visualizations today and realize that they kind of already do this in their life. And so that's cool. Yeah, you're a visualizer. I don't think that I am as much. It's something I've been working on, but I'm not. Doesn't come natural to me. Maybe I don't have a huge imagination. I don't know, but.
Yeah, to some people, it's probably kind of crazy sounding. I think even though I did it as a kid and from a very young age, I still never thought that it was really something that you could do. You could take reps basically in your mind. So yeah,
mental reps. I like that.
Yeah, it sounds a little out there probably to some people, but there's some research behind it. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we always got that disclaimer. Sometimes we might get a little weird for you, but
yeah.
We'll always bring it back at some point in time.
Usually when it's my idea, right?
Right. All right, so since it is your idea, well, it was your idea for this week's podcast, how about you tell us exactly what visualization is?
Sure. So to break it down like in layman's terms, it's really like recreating images, sounds, feelings in your mind that surround an activity basically in order to practice and perfect it in a perfect environment.
Okay, so kind of the picture perfect doing something.
Right.
Okay. And how does it apply to, well, I guess, is it only in we're going to talk about micro and macro, but is that more of the micro sense when you're visualizing something, like trying to get better at a task? I know you and I before the podcast talked about the 10,000 hour rule. So don't even get me started, but what's your take? How do you think that it differs from, like I said, just getting better at one thing? So like in my case, trying to perfect my squat or visualizing before a heavy squat versus achieving something big in life. How would you break those up differently in your mind?
Well, I think the reason it fits for both really micro and macro, that kind of small definition I threw out there, is because I feel like yeah, macro is those small little, hey, I want to be able to run a 1 minute faster mile or something like that. And I feel like you're gonna visualize it in that perfect environment first because you want to find yourself having success first. So I feel like that this definition fits for both. I mean, and basically that's what visualization is. It can work for those small micro things where you're just, imagining yourself completing something and finding success in some small little task. At the same time as, you can really put more time to the process and visualize yourself achieving something much bigger, like a goal that you have of yours, like getting your master's degree or something like that for me. So I think it fits on both levels, but I do think it's interesting to kind of bring up the notion that there are different levels of kind of visualization and kind of goal achievement. I don't know. I think the process is probably the same, though. I think the process is just more time to a bigger goal and more time visualizing it because there's more time required to achieve a bigger goal because there's more steps in between where you are now until it's achieved. And I feel like just, a micro visualization accomplishment is the same process, just less time. I don't know. What do you think, my man?
Yeah, well, I think when you're talking to anybody about this stuff, even myself, many years ago, you would have to come at me with research first for me to be like, you know what, I'll try visualization because I never really saw the value, especially as a younger athlete, like in high school. I never really saw the value of visualization. I was like, no, I need to practice and get better at this. Physically, sitting around on my couch thinking about it's not going to do anything.
Right.
But that's not 100% true. I mean, people shouldn't be lazy and just, oh no, I'm visualizing losing the weight. Like you should, but you got to take action too. But there's a study I want to bring up. So the Department of Biomedical Engineering at the Lerner Research Institute, they showed how mental power or visualization can relate to your muscular power. And real quick, the study, they tested finger, abductor muscles, and elbow flexor muscles through 12 weeks of training, 5 days a week, 15 minutes per day. There were 3 groups. There was group 1 who only did physical exercise, what you would think of from working out.
Right.
Group 2 did nothing. They just sat around and did nothing. And group 3 only did visualization exercises. And the results were, obviously, doing the physical work got the highest results. They had a 53% increase in strength. The people who did nothing pretty much had no results, no significant change. And then group 3, the people who only did visualization, had a 35% and 13.5% increase in strength, respectively, to the 2 exercises I mentioned. So the first time I read that, I was like, that is crazy. Somewhere a 35% increase in strength just from thinking about it. That's all they did. There's literally nothing else that they were doing. And so I think that's crazy.
I really thought when we were talking about the research, that you done before the show, I really thought that the visualization group did the most and performed the best. So I guess nothing beats hard work still. Nothing beats. There's no replacing.
No, nothing's going to beat the physical work, but what I like to bring up is what if you combine the two as opposed to picking one or the other?
I think that would be like trying to listen to an audiobook while you work out, which we both
or it would be like listening to an audiobook while you're reading the book.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to, I read not a study, I read an article about it not long ago. They said that's supposed to increase your comprehension by like 80% or something.
Really?
Yeah, maybe we'll do an experiment on that one, but
we need to try that, yeah.
Yeah, so listen to the audiobook and read, while that person's listening or reading to you, basically, as what that becomes, and yeah, your retention rate increases. But yeah, nothing's going to beat that, beat your physical
doing it.
But the quote that comes to mind when I see that is Henry Ford said it best is whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So visualizing what you're doing and at a micro level is really important. So how have you used it in your life at a micro level?
Well, for me, I've used it mostly with sports. I mean, I've used it a lot of times with presentations in school or at work, things like that as well. But I've mostly used it in sports. And I've used it as a coach in sports as well. But for me as a kid growing up, I mean, the one time I can think of that I used it, it was really impactful for me. And really, I guess I should think about the first time I really used visualization, in its fullest without even really knowing it. It's kind of a cool story. I mean, I spent all season, I was like 10 years old playing youth basketball. I spent all season like hoping we'd get to the playoffs because I was usually like on the worst team. So we never made the playoffs. And so I was like, I just want to make the playoffs. I'll make the playoffs. And I would, practice. What kid basketball player doesn't practice counting down 3, 2, 1, shooting shots, out in their backyard or whatever, just trying to hit the shot at the buzzer. Well, I kept visualizing like in my downtime before I went to sleep, like I'm going to hit this shot and take us to the playoffs with last second, on the clock. And I did it at night. I did it all the time. I visualized it for that entire season. I practiced it. But I think I had a lot of muscle memory from just thinking about it. And what's crazy is that season went on and it came down to one shot at the last second to take us to the playoffs at the end of the season, and I ended up hitting it. And so it's kind of crazy that, that situation ended up happening kind of the way basically exactly the way I was thinking about it for several months leading up to. But
I've heard so many stories like that. I personally don't have one, but I think that they're so fascinating. You have your story. I've heard other people. Was it like Michael Phelps has a similar story with swimming?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then Mark Devine, when he was at SEAL Fit, he had similar stories through his Navy SEAL training and stuff. And it's just, if you can really harness that power, it seems like it can be really impactful. I mean, me using it, I use it on a real like micro level. So before like a heavy squat, I'll sit there and visualize me doing it. Like if I'm going for a new record or something,
right?
But not just like picturing me doing it. Like actually, what's this going to feel like? Like try to visualize every aspect of that squat before I do it. And I've found just simple visualization like that has helped me out a ton, as opposed to having a busy mind or rushing into it or whatever. Really sitting, concentrating, and visualizing on the execution. It's helped me hit some numbers easier than I thought that I would.
So for you use it right before you do your lift, like right there, almost in the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like real micro is when I use it most of the time. I use it on a macro sense, which we can get into here in a minute. But yeah, I use it on a smaller. Let's see, if I were about to hit a weight right now that I, was really unsure about, I'd probably visualize for like 1 to 2 solid minutes before I would do the weight. And
now, I think now that's interesting. I didn't realize what you meant by quite so micro there.
No, yeah. So macro to me is achieving a goal over years, months or years, and then micro is much smaller. So
I see. Well, I think what's really interesting, the stuff I learned in my research, is that people like musicians can use it, and they even kind of say that it's like getting like mental reps, like muscle memory kind of for like practice for their instrument. You mentioned that 10,000 hour mark earlier in the show, and that's something that's referenced often with these musicians about how they can maybe get to that 10,000 hour mark much quicker by using visualization.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. So the only reason I don't like the 10,000 hour rule is because it's so overused. Like, it was a study done on musicians saying they needed about 10,000 hours to master their craft, and then everyone's like,
it was applied to everyone.
Yeah, everything takes 10,000 hours to be the best at.
Right.
And so it's like, well, I don't think that's 100% true. You have to actively be trying to get good at something to get good at it. Because I type a lot. I've typed 10,000 hours. I guarantee there are better typers out there because I'm not trying to become a better typer. I'm just typing, So like,
yeah.
There's all sorts of ways it doesn't fit. You have to actively be trying to get better. And even then, it might not take 10,000 hours to be the best at drinking coffee.
Lord knows we spent more than 10,000 hours on this podcast and probably not the best one out there yet.
Definitely not. No. Not according to iTunes, at least. All right, so macro, I wanted to bring up one thing.
5-star reviews.
The only thing I got on macro was a book I read a while back called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon
Right.
Hill.
Yep.
And it's all about Napoleon Hill's basically huge research project given by Andrew Carnegie, the steel man. And they broke it down into a 6-step process for visualization. That's basically think and grow rich. That's the whole principle of the book is, to how to use your mind to achieve these lofty goals. And the first one, in this book, the principles are fix your mind on the exact amount of money you want. And that's pretty much step one. So it has to be an exact amount. And this is in money. Maybe it applies everywhere.
Sure, a specific goal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second is determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money that you desire. So like a service or whatever you're going to do. Like what are you going to do to get there? And then a third is establish a definite date when you intend to achieve the goal. So
Right.
they say you need to be very specific. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your goal and put it into action. And then fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money or goal you intend to acquire and state what you intend to give in return for the money. So basically, you do steps 1 through 4 in a written statement. And then 6, after you've written that statement, you're going to read it aloud twice daily. Once just before going to sleep at night and once just after you wake up.
That's
So
supposed to help you visualize.
yeah, and they say as you read it, you have to see and feel yourself and believe in yourself as already in possession or achievement of your goal.
I think some of those things are things people do anyway. It's kind of like just proper planning, right? Like make sure you specify what you want. You set a timeline. You decide how you're going to do it.
It's like a smart goal, basically.
Right. It's like just setting a smart goal, and then by doing that process anyway, by planning kind of out how you're going to do it, it gives you the freedom probably necessarily that you need to be able to visualize, right? Because now you know all the background information, what you need to do. You don't have to take so many steps to get there to where you can just start visualizing yourself finding success or yourself already excelling.
Yeah, I think so. The first part of those 6 steps, yeah, I completely agree. It's just kind of like a SMART goal. And if for anyone out there who don't know what a SMART goal is, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Look at that, right. Air Force. And so that's a SMART goal.
That was impressive.
Yeah, I just pulled that right out. So that's a SMART goal. But the last part, the step 6 is what I think is the most intriguing part of the whole thing. And that, because who actually has a goal, whether it's a fitness goal or a goal in life where you, every night before you go to bed, you tell yourself what the goal is and you imagine and visualize yourself achieving the goal and do that every morning. And like actually going through this is what it feels like, this is what it looks like, this is, what it will be. That's pretty powerful. Yeah. I think if you get to that level to where you have the discipline to do that each and every single day, I think that you'll achieve whatever you've set out to achieve.
I think it's twofold. One, you're probably building confidence in achieving the goal because you're thinking about it so often. It becomes like secondhand to you. It becomes so common that you finding that success and what you want in the future that you gain confidence in it. At the same time, I think it's like comforting a little bit, like because you're so used to hearing about it at that time. Because you're thinking about it so often that it just becomes part of your life. Like you breathe life into it that much more often, basically, because it's around you more than it would have been. Yeah,
and I think just keeping it at the front of your mind.
Right.
I heard a really good metaphor on achieving a goal from a mentor of mine a while back, and I thought it was amazing. And it was. So, birds fly with a purpose, like straight lines and flocks and all that stuff.
Right.
But bats fly a little bit crazier because basically they're blind. And, so they fly like all over the place, but they have sonar. They make a noise and the sound waves bounce back, and that's how they know they're getting close to something.
Right.
And that was the example I was given on a goal is... You need to regularly put your goals out in front of you because you might be going and that's just life. Life is going to pull you in so many different directions. If everyone had the ability to just focus on one thing every single day and nothing else, everyone would be the most successful person that they could ever want to be.
Oh, yeah.
But it's life that can make you fly like a bat all over the place, going crazy, but you're still headed towards your goal. You just need to regularly put your goal in front of yourself and know where it's at and know that you're getting closer, even though it feels like you're zigging and zagging and everything else.
Amen, brother. I like that.
Amen. Yeah, I was a huge fan of that when I heard it, so thought I would share. All right, so did we cover how to visualize? I mean,
we haven't covered how to.
All right, you got that one.
Sure.
I kind of talked about it, but in a different way. I want to hear your way.
You kind of set up the process, like what to do before you start.
Set a smart goal.
Yeah, right, exactly. So this might sound a little bit like some of the other things that we give processes for, like when we talk about box breathing or things like that, because it's a little bit similar. Like you want to find like kind of a quiet or like maybe like meditation, like a quiet, comfy place, if you're not right there before you're right about to do whatever action you're doing, kind of like you. I guess I never visualize like you do. I never, right before I do something, visualize. But anyway, so the first thing you want to do is make sure you're relaxed. Take a couple breaths, let go of any tension you have. Like I said, find a quiet place. If you can get to like a darker room or a bed, that's good. But if you can't, just try and find as comfy of a spot as you can. And then you want to start by imagining the environment of whatever place that you'd be doing this action in. You want to be able to see it, kind of imagine that you're there, feel like you can walk around in it. And then once you've got, like for me, it's a basketball court. Like I'm just talking about my example. Like for me, I'm imagining like, the court, I'm starting already to imagine like fans in the stands, parents and friends there or whatever, other team practicing on the other side. So start imagining that kind of stuff. Start imagining the environment. After that's done, then you want to kind of find like a third person view of the environment that you're at. Start, imagining things going on around, there. If you're imagining, a briefing you're giving at work, start imagining like your coworkers around. Start imagining your boss at the end of the table getting ready, maybe with his hands clenched or something like that, right? And after you've done that, you've already gotten the entire environment set, actors are in place. Start imagining yourself there. Start imagining, yourself interacting there. Start imagining yourself excelling there. If it's a sports event, start imagining, yourself making that basket or running past, your opponent. If it's, a briefing or something like that, start imagining yourself pointing to, a point on a bullet that's a really, really, important point that you want to make in your briefing, or if it's accepting an award or something like that, then you start putting yourself in that first perspective. And that's basically it. After that, you want to bring yourself out slowly because, there's all kinds of, things along with that and coming out of, trances and things like that if people get into those. But it's really just finding yourself in that place and then visualizing yourself excelling there. So it's not really challenging or detailed or in depth, but at the same time, it might take some time to practice before you feel like you're really making a difference, because it can be a little bit unusual at first.
Kind of like the Matrix.
Yeah, there's no red pill or blue pill once you get down in that deep visualization, hole.
So what if you start with a visualization of seeing yourself visualize, then you go into yourself there and then visualize?
Then you are already an expert and you've probably given it at least 10,000 hours already.
That's Inception, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think that covers it. I don't think I have anything left on visualization other than a quick recap. Visualization, it's good in micro and macro goals. We talked about that. There's actual research that backs us up on how it can make you stronger physically just by visualizing. So if you just think of what you could do if you were to combine your physical and mental power. And then Talon gave a great how-to visualize. So a lot of action steps. Go try it out there. Try it out with something, maybe a Jerred style at first, something real small, right. Just like a squat or, a clean and jerk or something like that. Just really visualize exactly how Talon said, like where you're at, and then, bring yourself into it and the weights and everything. one at a time, and then visualize it, and then try bigger things, maybe like the Think and Grow Rich approach like that we talked about for achieving those bigger goals and sticking to it, repeating it to yourself each and every single day to stay on track. But that's it, guys. That's visualization.
Yep. Thanks. See if it helps you become a better human.
Thanks.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.